All right, my friends. So you're taking a look here at my Raspberry Pi screen, and I'm going to just be kind of quickly going through the using your Raspberry Pi project that's found on the Raspberry Pi website for day 3 of our learning. And so as we go through this is just to kind of give you a visual, because if you're like me, sometimes you prefer video over reading and screenshots and things like that. So in this course, this stuff is pretty straightforward. What it's doing is just kind of giving you an overview of how to use your actual Raspberry Pi. And so as it's going, it's going to walk you through all these icons. And in particular, just going to start with the Raspberry, which we've already started to explore a little bit already. And you can see here that as we go through this, we can go through all these different programming options and things of that nature. And so as we go through here, they talk about using the accessories for the text editor. This is just kind of like a place to capture your notes. You can also write code. There's just lots of things that we can do. So I just type in here, I have built a Raspberry Pi. So it's just getting you familiar with that icon. I can save or not save. I'm not going to save that here, but you can kind of work through all these different options to kind of see what's around. The help is very, very helpful. This is a huge bonus to have within our drop-down menu. And so that's just getting you kind of making familiar with the Raspberry. You also have next to this would take you then to the internet or the web browser if you're connected to your internet through either Ethernet cable or Wi-Fi. And you can see that it uses Chromium, which is good. You also have this, which we'll look at here, which is going to be all your files and everything that you save and do and develop in the folders. And this will take you to your terminal, which is something that you may not be real familiar with now, but in the future, you're going to be using it quite a bit. So all that's there. And then as you continue to go through there, it takes you through the process of taking a look at your keyboard and mouse. And so the way to find that is back here with the Raspberry. You're going to drop down here to preferences, and you can see that there is a keyboard and mouse settings here. And so what this allows you to do is just adjust your mouse. You can change the mouse speed. You can also look at the double click time. You can swap buttons if you are left-handed. You can change a lot of these things to customize to you, which is really nice. And in terms of the keyboard, same kind of thing. It's going to give you some opportunities to adjust the repeat delay and the intervals if you want. And this keyboard layout, if it ever gets defaulted to a keyboard layout you don't like, this is where you can go and you can change how you want your keyboard to be displayed and used. And so obviously I'm here in the United States, so I'm sticking with the English version, but sometimes it may convert back to English or another format. That's where you would change it to get it back to a functional keyboard layout that you are familiar with. So that just gives you just knowing that you're aware of that. In terms of the internet, you can see in the upper right hand corner I've got the infamous wireless bar here. So if I click on that, it shows that I'm connected, and it shows all the other Wi-Fi networks that are available. And so to click, you would just join any network that you see on here, and you type in the password just like you would on a regular computer or your phone or anything like that. And once that's up and running, then you can then go to your internet browser, the globe here, and you can start to search whatever you would like to go do. And it works just like your regular computer or your phone or tablet, whatever you use, to get connected to the internet to go forth and do all those things. And so that's all there for you as well. Once you've got the internet up and running, we can also take a look at our sound. And so we have the speaker icon right here, and it's blue, it's turned on, it's activated. And for this one, you're going to want to right click, and you're going to see that I've got some options here. Right now it's checked to the HDMI, and so that's the port that my Raspberry Pi is currently plugged into to provide that audio. In this case, the HDMI cable is plugged to my TV that I'm serving as a monitor, but I could also click here this AV jack, which allowed me to plug in speakers or headphones. And so this is really helpful if you're playing games or if you have a whole class full of Raspberry Pis, you don't want the noise beeping all over, and so that can be pretty helpful as well. And then you can see here just the profiles if you want to turn those on and off. If you just do a regular click, not your right click, this is also your volume control. So you can always adjust the volume up or down that way. The next part of the course is just taking a look at installing software. And we've done this already. We kind of jumped the gun on it, but it's okay. And you can see here, you can go to recommended software. You can also see all the software here with this recommended software. And it's going to automatically update itself to make sure it's got the latest packages for that software. And we've done this already, but we'll go ahead and do it again just as an example for you to see. It doesn't hurt to see things more than once. In the course, I think they have us install a drawing application called Pinta, so we will add that one just to stick with the course. And so if we scroll down here, we'll find it. Maybe, maybe not. And so let's see. Where would they have that? Let's just type in. Let's see if it shows up here. All right, so I'm not seeing it here in the recommended software menu. So I'm going to go ahead and just clear this out. And let's see if we can find something there. I've already got those installed. I'll pick that. And you know what? I'm going to pick, what else do I like here? Let's see. What? Ooh, Visual Studio Code. I need to look into this because I love using Microsoft Visual Studio Code for programming. So I'm going to go ahead and install that just so you can kind of see what that looks like as we get going here. But you can just pick one or two just to kind of see what's available. We've already done it once. If you don't want to download anything else to your Raspberry Pi, that is perfectly fine. Just know where it's at and how to do that in case you need to find programs in the future. And so we'll go ahead and let this download here. All right, we are completely installed. And so once that happens, you'll see here just again, when I go back to my Raspberry Pi menu, if I go to programming, there's the Visual Studio Code. It just automatically shows up in the category that it needs to be filed under, which is really helpful and nice. And so as we move away from that, it's then going to take you through how to update the software packages, how to update your Raspberry Pi. And so again, we're going to go here to the Raspberry Pi icon. We're going to go here to Preferences, and we can just click this Add and Remove Software. And what we can do here is you will notice that as we do this, we get this little option bar here. And what we could do first is we're going to want to just make sure that all the package lists are refreshed. So we're going to do that here. You don't have to do this every time, but it's good to do it every once in a while just to make sure that the packages and the software and things that are in here are up to date to the latest and greatest. Once you have that, then we just want to go here to check for updates. And this is going to see if there's any updates to the Raspberry Pi software itself. And so you can see here that I actually have one that I need to go ahead and do. So I'm going to go ahead and install this update. It's always good. Let's see here. Let me try this again. There we go. So I go to install this here. I have not set my own custom password, so I'm just using the default one here. In this case, it's Raspberry, if you can't remember from when you installed the micro SD card. So this is just going to get this all updated for us, which is important to do. You don't have to check this every single time. It is important to do this every once in a while or pay attention to the blog when you find out that there's updates, just so you have the latest and greatest packages and software available. The next step, once you kind of learn how to update your Raspberry Pi, it's how to access your files. And so this is what these little manila folders are for. You click here, this is your file manager. And what you're going to find here is all your folders and desktops. And yes, you can create new folders and all that good stuff. You can create folders on your desktop. It's just like your computer. So hopefully you're starting to see how that kind of comes to be. And I could go in here in my document folder and see what I have. I don't have much right now because we just rebooted with the new SD card. You know, my pictures can be in here. If I eventually start to screenshot or have important stuff, my videos, you know, my bookshelf, anything like that. Here's the desktop, you know, so if I put a new folder here, just so you can kind of see how this works, just as an example, I'm going to call this wallpapers because I might want to change the backdrop. See how I've got a folder icon here now for wallpapers. So in desktop, if I go there, now there's my wallpapers folder. So operates just like something we've always done many times. It's good to go as you work on this. Also keep in mind that you can plug in a USB flash drive into your Raspberry Pi. So if you want to store your files that way to not clutter the micro SD card completely, that's another good way to do that. And then it would read just like this. You'd have your SD card show up over here, and you'd have all your folders and files that way. And so that's always good as well. The other thing that's important is the terminal. Now, this might be a little overwhelming for some of you. Don't let it be. Just know that this is a way to access everything on the Raspberry Pi. This is a way to install software and updates and things like that. We'll be using the terminal in the future, but for right now, we'll just stick to the actual project itself, where all it's going to do is tell you to use the list command, which is just ls. And what this does is then it shows you all the subdirectories in your file directory. And you'll notice that these words here in this list, if I pull up my file folders, okay, you're going to see that they are the exact same folders right here as what we're seeing up here in the, it looks purple to me. So you're going to be able to write commands for anything under the sun and access anything on the Pi through your terminal. And you can see that sometimes it's helpful, sometimes it's not. But in this case, we're just going to do that simple list. So what we're going to be able to do here is then we can actually get into one of these folders and see what's available. And so the way we do that is we would type in cd. What this is going to change directory. Right now we're in the Pi directory. That's a, you can see that Pi is right here, pi. And when we do the basic list, it defaults to the Pi directory, which is why we're able to see these 9 folders, which are these 9 folders. So by typing cd, we can change directory. Okay, and then if I type desktop, it will open up the desktop for me that way. And from there, we're going to be able to then access different folders. And so let's see here. I don't think I have anything in this particular one. So let me go ahead and just make a quick little folder here. I'm just going to call this boring wallpaper because it's not even a wallpaper, but we're just going to do it for now. And I want to save this into my desktop. And that's where I'm going to want to put it to be saved. And let's just do, there we go. I'm just going to save it just on the desktop. I'm going to call it boring. All right, so now I see it here on my desktop right there. And so now what I can do is I can then actually pull up that file. And the way that I can do that is now that you can see here, I changed directory to desktop. Now you see desktop here, so I'm in that desktop folder. And if I hit list, you're going to see that I've got boring as a file and I've got wallpapers as a folder. So you see how they're color coded based on what they are. And if I type in boring, So let's go ahead and do the other activity in here that shows the pinout of the Raspberry Pi, because this is pretty cool as well. And so the way we can do this is we can just type out pinout, and it will show us everything that's going on. So these represents all the pins that are sticking out on your Raspberry Pi, those little metal prongs. And you can see the numbers, the GPIO number, the pin number. You can just see everything that's laid out, which is pretty nice to find about your Raspberry Pi. And so that's really, really great. And you can see here we got reference to a website of this pinout.xyz. So if I were to open that up, takes us to this browser page, which gives us more information about everything that we would need, what it means, and all that good stuff. So another really helpful website that you might want to bookmark and keep on your browser. You might want to reference that from time to time. It's just good to have. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize that as we go. And we can always get out of this by just typing exit, and it closes out the terminal, and we're in good shape. So the last thing that we want to take a look at is just how to configure your Raspberry Pi. And the way we do that is we're going to go here again to Preferences. We have this Raspberry Pi configuration. We're not going to do a whole lot with this right now, but if you ever need to change your password or change the name of your Raspberry Pi, you could do that. You can see that there's some different things that we can enable and disable. Again, some stuff here with our display. I wouldn't mess with any of that. Our interfaces. A lot of your stuff might be disabled, but we're going to eventually turn some of these on as we start to do some work with the camera. We already have the SSH and the VNC enabled, so we could do the virtual network connection. We'll get into this remote GPIO and some other things here down the road, but this is where we can change what our Raspberry Pi can interface with other attachments and sensors and modules. This just here just shows more information about your Raspberry Pi. And then if you wanted to set your time zone and all that good stuff, you could do that as well. So it just allows us to really kind of fine tune what we want our Raspberry Pi to do and how we want it to operate as we go through this course and you continue to learn the Raspberry Pi. The last couple steps in that project are really just taking you through resources to explore and to check out. And, that's what I want you to do is just to spend some time maybe checking out those resources and just kind of getting an overview of your Raspberry Pi. So pretty straightforward. Hope you found this walkthrough helpful. And then over in the Slack channel, let us know. What do you like? What questions do you have? What were some new learnings, some new insights? What are you seeing as being some really great possibilities with the Raspberry Pi? I mean, we're just scratching the surface, but hopefully you've had some new ideas start to form. So there it is, my friends, using the Raspberry Pi. Take care, and we'll see you tomorrow on day 4.